Warrior. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, a mother, a woman, endorses prostitution as work. This is the headline today. This is the headline that has come to my attention. Not only my attention, but our group here in New York State, New Yorkers for the Equality Model. Let me explain a little bit about what I'm talking about. Most recently, Governor Kathy Hochul announced she would be kicking off a pilot program. She would put just a little bit of money, $1 million, into this program that would promote prostitution, that would help with sex work productivity. Now, it has come to our attention. First of all, let me remind you, while women and girls and families are struggling here in New York State to pay their bills, to pay for health care, she announces this. Gets even better. Now, today it has come to light after our group, some of the women doing the research, digging in to where exactly will this $1 million go? Found out that one of the groups, and I want to get this right, so I want to read it. I'm so worked up about all of this because, again, here in New York State, I want everybody to understand something. We come together. We come together on this is a bipartisan issue. This is a human rights abuse. This is Governor Kathy Hochul promoting prostitution. Because remember, Warrior, the studies coming out, anywhere from 91% to 97% say that people in the sex trade are forced. They're not there by their own will. That is the definition of human trafficking, the use of force, fraud, or coercion. So she's promoting prostitution. Now, let me explain what this says. It gets even better. While it is critically important for people bought and sold in the sex trade to receive comprehensive health care, Governor Kathy Hochul couches it as a fund for sex workers, means that she is legitimizing the sex trade and pimps as employers and sex buying as a normal activity. One of the groups, and this is what I want you to understand, Warrior, one of the groups that will receive these funds is the Callan Lord Clinic, many of whose patients are children, mainly trans and gender nonconforming youth. That means that New York State is characterizing sex-trafficked children as sex workers in violation of New York State and federal laws. The governor needs to know what a disaster she has unleashed upon New York State and upon women, girls, children forced into the sex trade. I say this is the precursor for something I've been talking about. If you've been following along, you've heard me say it many times, the full decriminalization of the sex trade. That means brothels, pimping, trafficking, sex buying will be legal in New York State. From what we know from advocates around the country, they are hearing buzz that everybody's waiting for New York State to become the sex tourism capital of the United States. If they can push this full decrim bill through, they will get their wish. I no doubt, I can see it right now. We will see eventually, with this normalization of the sex trade, especially of our children, we will see our children in windows in Times Square being bought and sold like chattel. Now, full decriminalization. What we propose, our bipartisan group, New Yorkers for the Equality Model, and I urge all of you, follow along. Go to lynswarriors.org always for updates, and the website equalitymodelnewyork.org. Learn what we propose. We propose that the sex trafficked, that the exploited person can be taken out of the sex trade and face no penalties. Because usually they get arrested, the prostitutes. As a matter of fact, I interviewed somebody today on my daily program, State of the Nation, and a New Yorker, and she was talking all about the prostitutes getting arrested. We don't want that. We know that they have been coerced and forced for the most part. We also know they have criminal records due to their pimps and traffickers who get them to commit other crimes, any kind of theft, drugs, drug delivery. That's what they do. Therefore, these women, girls, and it could be boys and men, have legal problems. So using the equality model is something that we want to instill here in New York. And Maine, just a couple of weeks ago, Maine, usually New England is thought of very liberal, casual coming to the sex trade. They became the first state in the United States to pass equality model into law. This is groundbreaking, yet we're talking about it in our group, New Yorkers for the Equality Model, and the various groups involved, organizations, but the media is not talking about it. This should have been splashed all over every single headline. Equality model becomes law in the state of Maine. Now, of course, we wanted New York State to become the first state, but we'll take anything we can get. This is such wonderful news. And that means the prostituted person will be able to receive medical, holistic, psychological care, resources to make them better, get them out of the sex trade. Because a lot of studies show that somebody returns to the sex trade 8-9 times before they're fully, if ever, out of it. Because let's face it, if that's all you know, if you have no resources, no services available, if you're hungry and need a roof over your head, you're going to go back to what you know. It's as simple as that. So equality model allows for all of this, taking somebody out of the sex trade should they want, providing resources, and also helping them clean up their criminal records, because most will have a criminal record. The most scary part about Governor Kathy Hochul is she just does this. She just announces this. It's not like there were any brainstorming sessions with our group, which is comprised of some heavy hitters. Left, right, everybody coming together for this one thing, because we know the sex trade is violent. We know the sex trade is full of human trafficking. And to have a woman and a governor just stand up there and make these announcements, and on top of it, then we find out a lot of these funds are going to a children's organization, which means she's legitimizing children as, in their words, sex workers, being part of the sex trade. So I know this is just the precursor to this full decrim bill that's going to come down in New York. And what are we as New Yorkers going to do about it? Because if you're listening and you're not from New York, I have news for you. This is coming to a town, a city, your rural area. It's coming to you. This is the testing ground. Progressives, disruptors, disturbers. I don't know what to call these crazy people anymore. I really don't. They want adult and child as one, no division. You know what's going on. You see what's going on around the United States with children. There is a war on for our children, and I say this every single day. What are you going to do? What are we going to do? We cannot give in or give up at all. So wipe that idea. What are we going to do? Out of your mind, out of your vocabulary. You in your home, in your community, are going to take action. You are going to write to house.gov or senate.gov, find out who represents you. I don't care. Right now, this is New York State, but I don't care if you live in Ohio, North Carolina, Wyoming, Montana. Get this on the agendas. I'm warning you. You heard it here. It's coming to you. They want children in the sex trade. They want children working as prostitutes. The demand is for children. Remember, the bottom line always is, where are we going to make the most money? When people ask me on a daily basis, why is this happening? It is to make money. You go to house.gov, senate.gov, you find out who represents you. You call that office, you email that office, you write to that office. Yes, you have to put a stamp on it. And you say, we want the equality model. We don't want children in the sex trade, short and sweet. We have to fight this in numbers, in power. You know, I also did an interview today on my show, State of the Nation, with Bob Unan. Now, Bob is the CEO and president of Goya Foods. And Goya and Bob are executive producers on the film Sound of Freedom. And I've spoken to Bob before, and I wanted to ask Bob why and how he got involved with this. And as we're speaking, he says the same exact thing I'm saying. This child trafficking, because Sound of Freedom, in case you don't know, is about child sex trafficking. And although it takes place in Mexico, Colombia, it absolutely mirrors what is going on here in the United States. Children are being trafficked. Children are the ones in demand. Children are making the most money. And he said, this is all happening because there's a lot of money to be made. There's more money and easier money than arms dealing and drug dealing. What a sad, sad statement on society, whether it's here in the United States, around the globe. It is the biggest moneymaker. Now, when I walk down the street or I'm in a park, I look at every child and I say to myself, is that child being abused and trafficked? We have to come together. New York Governor Kathy Hochul endorsing prostitution, and on top of it, calling children sex workers, has to be stopped. There's also a great headline. You can go to my Twitter, Lynn's Warriors, and see I posted from the other day. I shouldn't say great with all of this horrific news, where the New York Post broke a story that we've known about, we've been talking about. We've gone to the local elected officials who have the nerve to tell us, well, we have a lot of immigrant men coming here now, and they need comfort. They miss their wives and girlfriends. So why not, if it's mutual, why not let them have sex with each other? When we know, as the New York Post article pointed out, Corona Queens in particular, Red Hook, Brooklyn, are destinations for men to go and buy sex. And what we also know with this migrant crisis, I call this illegal aliens because these people did not come here legally. We want people to come here legally, not illegally, for everything for free. What's happening? Buses are picking up these women in the dark, in the middle of the night. Many sources are telling the same story, so it must be true. They don't know each other. Bringing them, where's the demand? Where's the money to be made? Bringing them to these prostitution destinations, which would be Corona Queens, where women, all hours of the day and night, it's not just in the dark shadows, doorways of stores, at night, all day long. They approach families, men with families. They approach men with women that could be their girlfriends or wives. There's no shame. They just brazenly go up. We know these women are being brought there and being forced into the sex trade. Because once you get here, you still owe that money to your cartel. That's what they're doing. We have a U.S. government complicit in the biggest human trafficking operation, working with the cartels. Think about this, everybody. Don't let your child or grandchild or yourself be next. Start talking about this. We have to keep talking about this. You've got to write to your elected officials. And if you live in New York State, join me. You can always email me, lynn@lynswarriors.org. How dare Governor Kathy Hochul stand there and make these announcements and pronouncements that will further victimize women, girls in particular, and not care. I just leave you with one thought. Any of these people doing any of these things to vulnerable people, do you think they'd allow their child or grandchild to be part of the sex trade? I don't think so. And remember, no little girl or boy wakes up and says, I want to be a sex worker. Please always follow me at lynswarriors.org. Please, we are working very hard with our educational series. We have a lot lined up for fall 2023 in different communities. We also are working on many new initiatives, projects. We want to educate you. And we also want to support and take care of our survivors, our victims of trafficking and sexual exploitation, because our government is not doing it. So if you donate to Lynn's Warriors, that is where your money goes, into our educational programs and into the survivors' pockets. Food, transportation, toiletries, We give it all away to these illegal aliens, but we're not helping our own people. Shame on America, but a bigger shame on Governor Kathy Hochul. I say this to you because we love our country, but we do not like our government. So remember, community creates change each and every day. Be a warrior.